Say the word.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Supernatural Beer Bros podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and I'm joined today by Ben down San Diego Way
Howdy, howdy.
and Ronnie up in Maine with the Skeeters.
Oh God, they suck this time of year.
And the Third World Girls Gone Wild thing behind him.
We're gonna get a ban on that one. They're gonna call me racist so bad.
If Ronnie's picture behind him wasn't a dead giveaway, our topic for tonight is the North Sentinel Island and its inhabiting tribe of primitives that have been there forever, isolated. And they're so primitive, in fact, that they don't even know how to make their own fire. They have to harvest it from lightning strikes and never allow it to go out.
Well, how do they find enough wood on that island to keep a fire going perpetually?
No, I don't know. Driftwood, maybe? And Ben, you're muted. You're muted.
I was about to say, why don't you travel there and ask them? Oh, wait.
Well, yeah, no.
It is a small island, but it's not that small. It's a fucking tropical jungle island. And there's not a lot of people in that tribe. I mean, they estimate anywhere from a dozen to 500 people max. 500.
Yeah, and if you ever get close enough to try to ask them about what I was just talking about, you'll probably be a human pincushion before you ever get the chance to ask. So,
yeah. So I mean,
go scrapped or get clapped. That's for sure.
Let's see here. Hold on. Let me see. Where was I at? So wrong button. Let me share screen just a little bit.
So I'm gonna call you from now on Wrong Button Andy.
I'll call you Peter Puffin Ronnie. So, all right. So these are the people. You know what? That is one hell of a long arrow.
Hey, they look a lot like the people in my background.
Yeah, they do. It looks like a friggin' tropical paradise, though. Look at that beach.
Yeah, besides the flung arrows, it looks like a nice place to visit.
Yep.
Well, because it's in what, the Indian Ocean. That island actually belongs to the Indian government. Is that right?
Yep.
Those arrows look like the size of like Roman ballistas.
Some men are longer than others.
Your mother's been telling stories about me again, eh?
Christ, their bows shoot arrows as long as spears.
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
I imagine they tell people that visit the island, you know, the Spartans visit the island and have to fight in the shade because their arrows will blot out the sun, right?
Yep. So, anyways, the North Sentinel Island is a small island off the main shipping routes, surrounded by a shallow reef with no natural harbors. So partly due to protective laws enforced by the Indian government, and partly to their own fierce defense of their home and their privacy. So they're meaning the North Sentinelese tribe there. That's what we call them because we have no idea what they call themselves. So we just call them the North Sentinelese tribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
they're, I mean, essentially, they've been isolated for, I mean, obviously they've seen people. There's video of people, of, regular modern people interacting with them, like
Well, yeah,
talking.
Western people have been in contact with them on and off for the last 200, 300 years or so.
But my assumption is there's been no like comprehensive studies of like language and culture and customs.
No, it's
Yeah,
impossible. It's impossible.
I'm pretty sure the majority of those contacts over the last 200 years were not so cordial.
Well, that's true because even as late as December 2018, you had a 26-year-old American student he was a student at a very religious college called Oral Roberts University. It's basically an evangelical Christian university, and he read about these people on the North Sentinel Island, and his name was John Allen Chow. He's part Chinese, part white, and apparently he felt remorse and bad that they hadn't heard, about Jesus Christ, about the Bible. So he decided on his own volition to travel to the island by boat. Well, he flew to I guess India, then started taking some boats. And they at first shot an arrow at him, and it hit the Bible, which saved his life. And that should have been his message to skedaddle and never come back. But eventually, he returned to the island, and they shot him and killed him. And that was in 2018. So
Yeah, he showed up there and he asked them if they heard the good news, and they shot an arrow at him, and then he said, "He has risen."
I mean, he wanted to introduce them to Jesus, and they did that for him. So it was
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, to the point, it's that was not that long ago.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll go to the island and show them how I rise.
According to a lot of mainline scientists and anthropologists, these people predate Jesus by like 48,000 years. So that's how long they've been isolated there on that island.
Yeah. Listen here, bro. They don't want to be your bro, and I don't blame them.
I mean, honestly, if they've been isolated for that long away from this sick, twisted world, like I actually kind of envy them, to be honest. I mean, yeah, the lack of medicine sucks, but I'm sure they have some supplements, and they supplement that a bit.
Well, we're going to get
Eventually,
into that a little.
the globalists will eventually come for them too, because you can't have a global government if you have a remote Pacific island that's self-governed.
That's true. That's a Avatar situation right there.
So these people have not gone entirely uncontacted. Over the last 200 years, outsiders have visited the island several times, and it often ended badly for both sides. Mm-hmm. There are probably somewhere between 80 and 150 people on the island, although it could be as many as 500 or as few as 15. So they have no fucking idea.
Well, yeah, because some will emerge from the forest to see the outsiders and what they're up to. Not everybody's going to show themselves.
My God, a breeding population that small, that's been around for that long, that's got to be the South Pacific's version of Deliverance out there, like just
or the royal family.
Well, no, they're like one of the last vestiges of of organic humanity. Honestly, if you think about it,
we all know that inbreeding causes insanity. So,
that's true. That's true.
And think of the Mad King and the royal family. I mean, they're all nuts.
You show up there and some guys on the beach. There's my sister. Anyone's fucking my sister, it's gonna be me.
His sister wife.
They're digging in his belly button, getting there nice and deep black.
Okay, I mean, beside the gradual thousands of years of isolation resulting in probable insanity, total insanity. I mean, if they had been, if there were multiple islands like that exchanging populations and wives and shit and husbands, then you know,
Well,
I'm just saying these people are some of the last vestiges of organic humanity in existence.
well, these
Most of
people
us-
they are related to other indigenous groups in the area on different islands. The island is in the sea or the Bay of Bengal.
Bengal, yeah.
Yeah. So but they've had no contact, not only like they've been totally isolated, not only from us and other like Western people, but also from the surrounding islands. Like other tribes like that look similar to them and all that shit. Like even they don't go there. You know,
Here's
I
the
can't
thing.
believe the World War II Japanese didn't wipe them out at that,
I
you know.
don't think they. I don't
this
think
is in
they
the
lost
Indian
the
Ocean. The
capability.
Japs didn't get in there, did they?
I don't think so. Not maybe they had some submarine activity, but
Maybe.
Yeah, they never invaded any islands in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, but they were all over the place, so who knows? I mean,
no, there's
obviously they never got on that island because the people is still there. So
Well, they had their hands full raping the Chinese. So
that's yeah. They were predisposed to other acts of cruelty and barbarism to
yeah,
hurt the
yeah, how do you
Sentinel.
think the Chinese feel when a small island nation occupied them and put them under basically slavery for years?
Yeah, they're still a little heated about that, but
I'm sure they are.
no, but look, yeah. So I mean, it's surprising though because you would think like the British conquered 1/4 of the world's landmass. It's like it's weird. Maybe this island wasn't considered strategic for them to even waste time on it. Because obviously, all they had to go do is send 200 men with guns, and that would be the end of it.
well,
Uh,
we'll get into that in a little bit in my
yeah.
notes. But the British actually did stake a claim to that island at one point in history.
Well, it would make sense if it's on trade routes and they're going to claim it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, where was I at? Okay, so we'll get into their amenities. So they live in lean-to huts. So they've survived all this time in lean-tos, like the most basic shelter that you could possibly make. So
Yeah.
lean-to huts with slanted roof.
I mean, look.
Each one of these huts has a carefully tended fire outside of it. Lean-tos.
Right.
So let's see here. Let me
Well, look, they're the absolute. It sounds like they have the absolute baseline of humanity from ancient days. I mean, they transported that with them from wherever they came from, which I know we'll probably talk about later, given their appearance.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes,
Well, here's hold on. Damn it. I don't want a northern version. I want a tropical version of it. All right. Well, yeah. I guess that would be about right. All right, I'll share a screen so you all can see what a. Yeah, there's a lean-to.
looks like a lap of luxury.
Oh yeah.
You pile some leaves under there, and you're golden. So.
Oh yeah. I ain't shitting you. So that's what they live in, something like that.
And that jacket you took off the dead British guy. I mean, that's pretty cozy too. So.
Yep.
That
These men
wool.
were trying to surrender. Perhaps we'll never know.
So we never know. The British made no such quarter when they fired on a ship carrying my wife and daughters. I watched from 300 yards off as they were burned alive. You have my sympathy, but my order stands. Fuck your sympathy. Who are you to give such an order? All right, so their weapons of choice, they carry bows, arrows, as well as spears and knives. And unwelcome visitors have learned to respect their skill with all of the above.
I mean, they ain't got nothing but time to practice, man. So.
I don't think I'd want to fuck with them.
They probably could do that in the dark with their eyes shut, probably with their fucking
Yeah.
feet.
And they're used to shooting, small game with those giant fucking bows.
Hey, the only way I'm going to that island is if I'm wearing fucking plate armor from the Middle Ages, like thick shit, and I'm carrying my boomstick.
Hey, you think they made bows and arrows so large on that island because they're compensating for something?
It's got more to do with fishing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know, Andy. I'm just saying, I'm making a joke.
So many of these tools and weapons are tipped with iron, which the tribe there probably found washed ashore, and they worked the metal to suit their needs.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah. So in the 90s, a boatload of salvagers witnessed bonfires on the beach of North Sentinel Island. And they said they heard singing, but no one to this day knows their language, nor does anyone know what this group of people call themselves, let alone how to greet them or any customs that they have toward outsiders, other than hostility and ungrateful insults when they get sick of looking at foreigners who just gifted them with food and tools.
Boy, they sound like perfect neighbors.
Right? Like, howdy, neighbor. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing all right. Here, I brought you a basket of lemons off of the tree in the back. Oh, thank you. Now get the fuck off my porch.
Right?
Get off my
Thank you very
lawn.
much. Thank you very much. Now piss off.
Pretty much seems to be the sentiment. But we'll learn here in a little while why they feel this way, most likely.
An interpretation of why they feel that way.
Yep. So in 1771, an East India Trading Company vessel sailed past the island and witnessed lights on the shore, but didn't stop. After that, the island went undisturbed for almost a century, until a ship ran aground there with 86 passengers and 20 crew. The shipwrecked crew stayed there uneasily for 3 days until the natives decided to run them off with bows and arrows. The marooned crew responded with sticks and stones and eventually established an uneasy truce with the tribe on the island. Not long after that, a British Royal Navy ship showed up and rescued the passengers and the crew. While they were there, the British Navy decided it would be a good idea to stake claim on the island for the crown, a stake that mattered to no one other than the Brits until the 1880s.
Talk about overcompensating. Like, just that's what that is too.
So in
We have bad teeth, but we claim this island as compensation for our bad teeth.
Oh, I get it. I have bad teeth.
Yeah. Well, we all are. We are all Britons. Well, I didn't vote for you. You don't vote for kings.
Why do you become king then?
We're an
Why?
autonomous collective.
Oi, he must be a king. How do you know? He hasn't got shit all over
We
him.
are an independent autonomous commune.
Oh my God.
The sea is foaming.
So in 1880, a British naval officer named Maurice Vidal Portman landed on the island with a crew of convicts and other officers. The natives screwed before the British made it to their village, but a few got caught, an old couple and some children. Soon, the elderly couple were dead of an unknown illness, and the children were desperately sick as well. The Brits thought it would be a good idea to drop the kids back off on the island with some gifts and no way to know if the illness would spread.
Just
Well then.
par for course for the British, because they
Yeah.
always, well, I mean, of course, nobody knew what germ warfare was back in the day. So I know people like to say, "Oh, the British gave like tribes like
Yeah,
infected
but this was in 1880 though. We had some concept of germs in 1880.
We
When
did back in the day when we handed out smallpox blankets. So
What about that?
I mean, in the 1880s, plagues were no longer an act of God,
Yeah, I guess so.
correct? Like we had a at least a rudimentary understanding of microbiology.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe by that point, I don't know.
I mean, when was the first microscope invented? It was in like the 1600s or something, or 1700s, something like that.
Hold on. Well, I'm just curious when like microbiology was discovered. Because again,
We discovered germs. We knew about germs by the 1880s. Reasonably certain.
hell, the goddamn Greeks knew about germs. Why did it take so long to study them?
well, I mean, okay, so the inception of microbiology began potentially in 1857 with Louis Pasteur. Okay, I'm just
French
curious.
name.
That's about as Frenchy as it gets.
Louis Pasteur. That's where you get the term pasteurized milk from.
Damn Frenchmen.
Yeah,
why do people feel the need to pasteurize milk?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that's so. I guess that's possible. I don't know. Do you think they've intentionally set kids back on there to get them sick?
Well, who knows if it was intentional or not, but
Well, you think those 3 days of interactions, what a century earlier would have started to introduce Western germs and sicknesses to these people, though.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would think we knew about, germs and that, pathogen spread way back to the Middle Ages, like when you would lay siege to a castle and poison the water supply with dead animals or dead soldiers, or, you'd launch plague bodies over the wall or diseased cows, trying to get the population inside of the city sick. Like they did all that shit.
That's a fair point, because that's what happened during the initial onset of the Great Bubonic Plague, when Mongols were besieging some coastal cities. They launched some plague bodies right into their cities.
Right.
yeah. So so this experience with the British obviously didn't leave the tribesmen there on the island with a warm, fuzzy feeling towards foreign visitors.
Did they peg the tribesmen before they left?
Well, I mean, no, but we're getting there. So
I think the British were known for that sort of thing back then.
in 1896, 16 years later, an escaped convict from a nearby prison colony on a different island tried to escape that penal colony on a makeshift raft. In an excellent illustration of the concept of out of the frying pan and into the fire, he washed ashore on North Sentinel Island. A colonial search party found his remains a few days later, full of arrow wounds and his throat cut. The British wisely decided to leave the Sentinelese in peace, at least for the next century or so.
I don't know, with those mad bow and arrow skills, you figured the British would try to use them on the Western Front in the First World War.
I'm sure they found his body totally covered in semen too.
I don't think so, Tim. But
I think they may have.
Okay, well, they didn't cannibalize, so that's a hint.
Hey, these are official records according to Ronny.
Ronny, it's always about the pegging.
No, that wasn't pegging. They all just stood around and circle jerked him. He was the pivot man.
Oh my god. Oh
So they
god.
didn't cannibalize, unlike what happened to like Captain Cook and some of his men in Hawaii, a century before.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us that story, Ben?
Well, yeah, because like Captain Cook obviously was famous for just sailing across the world, establishing, making discoveries. I think he was pivotal in helping establish Australia, if I'm not mistaken, especially Botany Bay in eastern Australia. But in 1779, he met his end with the stab wound on Hawaii, along with I think four of his men. Now, contrary to what I've always been told, I guess he wasn't actually like cannibalized like some minor entity. His remains were actually apparently given a chiefly treatment. Now, granted, his corpse was disemboweled, and apparently his body was baked, which is obviously ironic given his name, Captain Cook. But but apparently, like he was given a pretty ceremonial treatment because of his stature. Now his men were captured, probably just killed and eaten. So
yeah, a ceremonial treatment. They gave him a good old fashioned pig roast. They put a spit up his ass and out through his mouth and put him on the rotisserie.
What they did was they disemboweled him, removed all the organic matters, and then they cleaned his. Yep. Apparently, they cleaned his bones and made them kind of like icons, essentially.
Well, I like the idea of they made a rotisserie cook.
Did they use his skull? Did they use his skull for a bedpan?
Like, think of
Pirates. Possibly.
Think of Pirates in the Caribbean, the second one where they're inside this cage, and they're hanging off the side of a cliff, and it's like, where's the rest of the crew? It's like, you see these cages? They weren't here when we arrived. They were made out of their bones.
Yep. Rotisserie Brit tastes like chicken.
Actually, that's not how the Hawaiians did pig roasts, Ronny.
I know, Andy. It's a joke. A-hole.
The way they actually do it is they have a big fire, then they put the coals in a hole, and then they have the pig, which they then wrap, or they gut, wrap, and put in the hole, bury it, and then they dig it up the next day and butcher it and eat it.
Hey, yo, man, give me some of that Captain Face meat. That's the
best kind of pig roast, though.
Hey, let me get some of his
succulent.
Let me get some of his roast buttocks.
A little rump roast.
Hey, can you pass me another hunk of co-pilot, please?
I'll take some Uderbraten.
Some Uderbraten.
Oh, I think about 7 minutes a pound should do it.
Did you watch that recently, or you still remember that from fucking 20 years ago?
I still remember it because it's hilarious. The whole if you don't know, it's a reference to a Simpsons episode where the whole town becomes like cannibals, and they start eating the children. One by one, children just start disappearing. They end up in the school lunches.
Jesus.
Holy shit.
Uderbraten.
Attention. He's like, for how long? Oh, I think about 7 minutes a pound should do it.
Oh, yeah. You're killing me, Ron.
Oh my god. I think it was a Halloween episode or something, if I remember right.
Yeah. So about a century later, another group of scientists landed on that island and found much the same thing as the previous group: abandoned huts, fires still burning, and an empty village. Unlike the previous group, they left gifts and then stole some weapons like bows, arrows, spears, and such in return. I'm sure the islanders weren't too thrilled with this development either. So the next group of people decided to show up on the island bring a bunch of, you know, coconuts and pots and pans and tools, knives and all that. Left the gifts, but in return, instead of it just being gifts where you leave your shit and go, they decided to take the islanders' weapons with them when they left.
Oh man.
Which I know that there's a lot of primitive cultures in history that considered their weapons to be sacred, like almost to like a religious point of view, where if you lost it or broke your weapon, it was a grave dishonor.
Yep. Well, kind of like the Japanese with the, with the sword. You know, a samurai's sword is like the soul of his ancestors. It was a family heirloom passed down to the firstborn son in the family.
Yeah,
And it was like the soul of your ancestors were carried in that sword. If you were to lose it or break it or have it captured from you, I mean, you better be dead.
yeah. I mean, these peoples, they could have a similar system there with their weaponry, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't know because nobody can ever spend enough time there to learn anything about them without being ran off hostilely.
Yeah, ran off by, meaning being shot with a 6-foot arrow.
So the guy who on this latest group that I just read about, his last name is Pandit. So him and his little group of colleagues kept trying to make contact, mostly by pulling into the beach in a dinghy and dropping off coconuts and other gifts, and then beating a hasty retreat quickly.
Yeah.
Can't blame them, really. I mean, never can be too sure, especially with the third world girls gone wild over there.
Right, exactly.
Never know what kind of shenanigans may happen.
No one wants to show up on an island like that and get captured and anally raped with fucking pineapples.
Getting ruthlessly pegged.
That damn Sasquatch.
Some tribal version of House of a Thousand Corpses.
Was that Little Nicky where Hitler was in hell getting like a pineapple shoved up his ass every day?
Yeah. And it's funny because he makes him pick his own pineapple, and he comes out with this little tiny one, and the devil's like, mm-mm. And then he comes out with this huge one, and he's like, mm-hmm. And Hitler's like, he's like, you're snerious. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's like, you're snerious. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
But it's funny because he like grabs him around the shoulder like this when he's ramming it up there, and he's like,
oh my God.
and he's wearing like this French maid outfit. Fucking ridiculous. You're snerious.
Oh man.
Oh, for fuck's sake, dude.
You think they have Sasquatch on that island?
I doubt it.
He seems to be everywhere else. I mean,
I don't think these people would tolerate his presence.
Too hairy.
So you think if anybody in the world, of all the people in the world and populations of the world, these people are the most likely to peg Sasquatch?
You're hairy.
Right. So next.
I think that's about how it would go down.
The sea is foamy. You have wandered way off course.
Hey, that's what we do on Beer Bros. We wander way off course.
Yeah, so these people, dude, not to be trifled with. even with their primitive weaponry.
So are they
Oh,
saying
fuck.
where the 50,000 year estimated mark comes from?
I don't know. I remember hearing about it on another podcast I listened to.
All you need to land is a platoon of Marines on that island, and it'll be all set within 10 minutes.
Oh, dude, you know, we could wipe them out in a heartbeat if we wanted to, but the thing is we don't want to.
No, and I don't blame you.
This is probably one of the last groups of truly primitive people still existing on this planet.
Right, with no outside influence
Exactly.
at all.
Which is nice for them because when shit goes down in the world, they're not even going to know it, and they're going to survive because they've been doing it forever.
Yeah, they'll probably most definitely outlast all of us.
Yeah.
Far as our
I mean,
cultures and civilizations go.
there all your material wealth and goods and your status in society means nothing. You can show up there, they'll kill you like if a homeless bum showed up on the shore. Same thing. It means nothing to them.
Yeah, I mean they pretty much completely, they don't farm, they don't do anything. They completely subsist on hunter-gatherer tactics. They crabs, fish, whatever they can catch. I mean,
Yeah, so imagine, so I mean, the crazy thing is they have a language which is like entirely unknown to humanity at the moment. I mean, I know there's some video I was watching where, officials from the Indian government were interacting with them and tossing them like, pineapples and coconuts and some other things. And you could hear them obviously speaking. But I think the crazier thing for me is that they have black faces. Like when you think of the Indian Ocean and Indians, everybody I think has an idea of generally what an Indian person looks like. These people look like they're Zulus or tribesmen from Africa in the Indian Ocean.
Right.
yeah.
And Indian, everyone knows what Indians look like because they always show up in your DMs, with creepy messages.
Yeah, like, would you mind giving me your IP address? Someone has hacked you and made a duplicate account.
Well, no, but these people straight up look like sub-Saharan Africans, and they're all the way on this Indian island.
Yep. And then after they, they show up there and they throw them some fucking coconuts and pineapples, and then they point their fucking bows and arrows at them, and the people leave, and then they say, "Thank you, come again."
And the crazy thing is, because these people might have the last authentically ancient African language on Earth, because unlike the tribes of Africa who interacted with all the European powers, be it the French, the Belgians, the British, whoever, these people don't have that same interaction. So their language is probably one of the last pure languages on the face of the earth.
Yeah, speaking of that, those European powers who've been, raping the African tribes for centuries, but
Well, that's what I mean. So they have no adulteration of their language, and I don't know if these people have boats, if they maintain the technology, or if they lost that over the centuries.
I'm sure they lost it. I haven't heard any stories about the people of this island being seafaring at all.
Okay,
It's
so at
almost
some
like-
point,
this tribe, they do make these dugout canoes with outriggers, so they can probably move island to island if they wanted to, but they have no desire to. They stay on their own island.
which again, well, obviously at some point they had some superior technology though to travel. They're Africans, let's be honest. They're not sub-Saharan Indians, subcontinental Indians. I mean, they're Africans. So at some point they had some magnificent ships to carry them all that tremendous distance.
Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were picked up by some aliens and dropped off there.
There is always that theory.
Maybe they were some kind of a prison colony for the aliens. They weren't good slaves. So
yeah, I'm
dropped
not
off over
saying
there.
it was the aliens, but it was the aliens.
But it
When
was,
in doubt, blame the aliens. But
Yeah.
no, look, so these people are like just absolutely fascinating. And I mean, they like I just can't even imagine like we don't know what their customs are, their culture. Maybe they had an interesting, maybe a theory, maybe there's something in their religion, because look, religions naturally pop up among tribal people that made them go there and made them stay there. Maybe they don't travel because it has some special divine significance. Like there's so much we just don't know about these people.
I wish they were more cordial to visitors, because I would consider going there and learning a thing or two about primitive survival.
Yeah, like these people are A-level experts.
Yep.
They
Like
will inherit the earth. 'Cause
yeah,
we'll
they
outdo
probably will.
each
'Cause
other.
look, you look at New York City, you look at Los Angeles. I mean, hell, you look at any major city or suburb in the country. When SHTF, um, you know, like most people in those municipalities are probably going to die. Let's be honest.
I'd leave there singing, "Who needs the quickie mart? Who needs the quickie mart? Now here's the tricky part. I do."
Oh my God, Andy. You are gay.
Hey, you know how tigers and shit like to swim? I wonder if any tigers ever made their way out to that island.
Well, they'd probably nail him as soon as it landed.
I know, right?
Oh God, it was
Again,
probably like Apocalypse Now, the first boat that went through there, the friggin' chef on the ship.
Fucking boat.
I'm going to get me some fucking mangoes. Comes running back to the boat, arrows flying. Never get off the fucking boat.
Hey, I wonder what these people would think if you showed up there with a belt-fed machine gun and just unloaded on a tree, and they could see the damage and destruction it caused. And I wonder what they would do. I mean, even if you didn't kill anybody.
They'd probably try to kill you and take the gun so they could have it for themselves. I mean,
whatever their language is, it'd be something along the lines of, "Let's take that magic white man fire stick."
well, believe it or not, violence is a universal language. It's one thing that everybody gets the message.
Tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked. Ah!
Everyone gets the message, you know? It's universal. You
That's
don't have to
true.
speak the same language, but you'll understand that the other side's pissed off when the violence starts.
I mean, honestly, like just the way this world's going, I'm actually kind of envious of these people. I mean, not the centuries of inbreeding, but if you could have hundreds of these kind of islands where they're changing populations, so they you're not getting the insanity factor.
They're not just kissing cousins over there; they're kissing everybody.
My sister wife.
Like, my mama is also my baby mama.
And me and Uncle Daddy gonna have us a nepson.
Maybe we can make a real man bear pig. Super cereal.
Wee, wee, squeal, piggy, wee.
I mean, again, the way things are going, can't blame these people. So, like, I could see a colony like this, like people doing this in kind of like, I don't know, New Hampshire or Montana, where they attack outsiders.
Yeah,
Right?
so I mean, like, we brought them, like, well, not we, but I mean, they've been brought a lot of gifts throughout the past, and some of which were live pigs, and they didn't care much for those because they merely just speared them and buried them in the sand. So live pigs were not on the menu. And I guess plastic toys for the children got much the same treatment as the pigs.
Good.
Yep. So, yeah.
Like, that's what I mean. This is like one of the last group of organic humans in the world, because I mean, they don't ingest crap like the vast majority of humanity does. They don't, pollute their minds with bullshit, like whether it's news or video games or whatever. Like, these people are pure human.
I'd say most likely it's not one of the last. It probably is the last tribe of organic humans in the world.
Well, I thought there was like an Amazonian tribe.
Well, there are a few tribes in the Amazon that they say are completely uncontacted, but
Probably for much the same reasons. Anyone who gets close gets cured.
well, I mean, I think there's some African tribes like in the Congo and shit that nobody goes around for much the same reason, because you'll just end up dead. The head hunters, the pygmies, and all that.
Yeah, getting roasted.
You're like, I will motivate you, Private Pile, if it sure takes every cannibal on the Congo.
Yep. You are dumb, Pile, but do you expect me to believe that you don't know left from right? Then you did that on purpose. You want to be different.
What side was that, Private Pile? Sir, left side, sir. Are you sure, Private Pile? What side was that, Private Pile? Sir, right side, sir. Don't fuck with me again, Private Pile. Pick up your fucking cover. Oh, man.
Anything more about our uncontacted friends?
Oh, well, all right, they didn't like pigs or plastic toys, but they seemed massively pleased with metal pots and pans. And they quickly grew very fond of coconuts, which do not grow naturally on the island.
Really?
Yep.
I wonder if they have any. They have to have some kind of tropical fruits.
I don't know. I'm sure they got fucking some of those, Southern Asian fruits like mango, or they got mango. Yeah, they got mangoes. They probably got mangoes and shit over there. Maybe bananas or some type of bananas.
An island like that is a very small ecosystem, and probably are not a whole ton of species on there. I mean,
Well, again, I would just have to think they'd have fruit, like tropical fruits. I'm surprised to hear no coconuts.
Yeah, no coconuts.
this is the boat, the banana boat.
So anyway, they could always count on that pandit guy and his colleagues to deliver coconuts by the bagful.
Until they killed him too, right?
Yeah, usually with bows and arrows trained on them the entire time.
Yep.
Even as they're handing out food.
Well, that's where Ronald Reagan got his "trust but verify" quote from. Was the North Sentinelese.
Or the walk softly but carry a big stick. Who was that? That was
Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt,
And
yeah.
apparently, they both visited the North Sentinelese and got some advice from them.
Hey, what did they call that? Big stick diplomacy?
Yep.
I call it big dick diplomacy.
That's right.
It's just a rhyme scheme.
That's right. When we step off the boat on the island, that island's going to list 20 degrees.
Yep. Big dick swinging. Big dick swinging. Swang, swang.
When I jump in the ocean, the water displacement from my balls is so great that the ocean levels rise 3 feet.
Yeah. So visits were sporadic until 1981. So a National Geographic film crew tagged along in 1974, and the director caught an arrow in the thigh for his trouble. The exiled King Leopold III of Belgium passed close to the island on a boat tour in 1975, and the Sentinelese warned him off with arrows. For some reason, the king was absolutely delighted by the whole thing.
I just had an idea. A great idea for a gift for them. They oughta go to the island sometime and just drop off with a little battery powered motor, a wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man, put it on the ocean on the beach.
Set it up there under battery power, and it's just sitting there doing this, and fucking arrows just flying through it.
Yeah.
Videotape the whole thing.
Just flailing.
No, dude, knowing like when we were kids and like us and Matt, we fucking roll by there on a boat with the fucking little mortar fireworks, just fucking launching fucking mortars at them. The mortar fireworks.
That would be us too if we lived in the area.
When we were kids.
We would have been little assholes.
I know, right? Oh, we were terrible. All right, so in 1981, a cargo ship called the Primrose and her crew of 28 ran aground on the reef in an eerie echo of the Nineveh. But this time the sailors were rescued by helicopter. And later visitors to the island say that the Sentinelese seem to have salvaged metal from the ship for their tools and weapons. For artisans used to working with scraps of metal that washed ashore, a whole ship must have been an incredible find. That same year, Pandit and his team stepped up their efforts, dropping by the island every month or two. And a decade later, a year before Pandit's retirement, that regularity and persistence paid off. One day in early 1991, a group of islanders came to the beach to collect their gifts with no weapons, just woven baskets and the, what is that, adzes or adzes? I don't know what an adzes is, ADZES, that they used to cut open coconuts. So some type of tool. Although later encounters proved how well those adzes could be used in self-defense. They ventured closer to the outsiders than ever before. Later that day, when the anthropologists returned, they found 24 Sentinelese people standing on the beach, and an interesting scene played out. A man raised his bow to aim at the visitors, and a woman pushed the bow down. The man responded by dropping the bow and arrow, burying them in sand. It's still not clear whether this was a negotiation in progress or a ritual display, but as soon as the weapons were disposed of, the people rushed out to the visitors' boats to collect their coconuts. But Sentinelese hospitality had its limits. On another visit, a few weeks later, a Sentinelese man signaled to Pandit that it was time for the guest to leave by drawing his knife and making a cutting gesture.
I'm gonna get you like a fish.
Quote, this is a quote. If we tried to venture into their territory without respecting their wishes or got too close for comfort, they would turn their backs on us and sit down on their haunches as if to defecate. That was meant to be an insult. If we didn't pay heed and stop, they would shoot arrows as a last resort. So the tenuous friendship between the islanders and the anthropologists never moved beyond coconut handouts. The Sentinelese never offered gifts in return and never invited the visitors to stay or to venture inland. And neither side ever learned how to actually speak with each other. And the Sentinelese didn't always welcome the visitors. Sometimes the anthropologists were still greeted by armed men on the beach. The Indian government suspended the anthropologists' visits in 1996. So when the Indian Coast Guard helicopters flew over the island after the 2004 tsunami, they found the Sentinelese in good shape and not at all pleased to see them. And not at all hesitant to attack the helicopter with bows and arrows.
Oh my God.
A couple of years later, in 2006, an Indian crab harvesting boat drifted ashore, and the Sentinelese killed both fishermen and buried their remains.
That's a scene right out of Avatar with them shooting bows and arrows at the helicopter.
Oh my God. Helicopter shows up right after a giant tsunami that killed like over 100,000 people on the mainland.
Right.
And these people respond to the gesture of goodwill with,
Coming to check on them by shooting at them.
right? So, given that history, it's not remotely surprising that the Sentinelese people saw American tourist John Allen Chow, which Ben mentioned earlier, as a trespasser when he stepped onto their island earlier this month and stood on the beach singing hymns. They chased him away twice, but when he ventured ashore a third time, they're believed to have killed him.
Well, I mean, he kind of asked for it.
Yeah,
If they chased him away twice,
when you're chased,
he'll return.
when you're chased off twice, I mean that should be a pretty good hint.
Yeah.
You're muted, Ben.
Time's a charm.
Yeah. Ben, you're muted.
Like I was saying, the Bible saved his life the first time.
Yeah.
And that should have been his hint. Like, okay, thanks, Lord. Thanks for that hat tip. I'm gonna get out of here now. So, 26-year-olds aren't known for being the smartest people on earth. I'm not saying I don't know his life. I don't know what kind of person he was, but obviously not too bright if you're going back for trouble 3 times. So
Right.
Yeah.
It
'Cause
turns
look,
out
I
it
love-
turns out they haven't heard the good word and they don't want to.
Well, it doesn't even have to do with that. Maybe they would appreciate it, but I mean, at this point, maybe their interactions from the 90s were enough to inform them that actually we don't want these people interfering with us. Because I was just thinking about the fact that, okay, they're bringing them coconuts.
This is my fucking laptop. Sounds like a fucking
Christ.
sounds like a rat that's caught in a trap.
Right. It sounds like a dying animal.
It sounds like you're choking a parakeet. But anyhow, maybe those people's earlier interactions informed them that, you know what, this actually isn't a good idea. Because look, what was that guy doing? He's bringing them coconuts, and they love coconuts. Well, now they're kind of addicted to it, right? This is something they love, and now they need it, because obviously if they love it, then they need it. And then that gets suspended, in 1996? So now they probably had to deal with several years of missing out on coconuts, and they're probably pissed off. So even though they're relatively uncontacted, that even brief contact interrupted their organic way of life. So like, that's the problem with modern man. We fuck up everything. We have like, these people don't even have piles of trash. No Western society should haughtily think we can save people or uplift people when we have piles of trash in our own communities. Like, once we get that down to nothing, then maybe we can civilize people.
Right.
Like, they don't have fucking trash dumps on the North Sentinel Island, I'm sure. I mean, they have buried victims all over the island, which is cool. They dispose of them in like some expert ways, but
Well, I'd be interested to see, what they do with their human waste, like how, and that sort of thing, like how they, do they dig latrines, or, do they just go out in the ocean, wade in, and let it go in there? And I mean, well, what do they do?
Well, it's pretty convenient, because then you wipe your ass in the ocean, then
right? Go out there, take a shit, then spear a fish that's trying to eat the shit that's floating. Take that in with a mouthful of shit and fillet it, cook it. Then you get a little shit aftertaste in your food. Adds the flavor.
Really adds to the flavor.
I fight crime in a rubber suit. Seals in the flavor.
Did you guys hang on a minute. Let me did you guys see this? Like, because we're talking about islanders, right? So in New Zealand, did you see that the dance they did outside of their parliament building? Did you guys ever see that?
Was it like
No, I didn't see
Haka
that.
or whatever?
Like their Haka Island dance? Dude, tell me this isn't intimidating. Watch. Watch. They get going. Savages. This is great. I wish we had a dance like this.
What? I mean,
We should invent one, Ben.
hey, turn off the
No, we don't do that. Americans dance around with pussy hats on their heads.
Let's get going. Oh, great.
Right?
No, but
Yeah,
look,
Americans don't do this. They prance around with pussy hats.
Imagine a bunch of us, like a million of us, get together outside the White House and did some shit like that. They'd be calling us January 6th all over again. They'd be, oh God, it's an insurrection.
well, no, look, because that's the thing about culture is like that's why people need to dig deep and find out where their roots really are. Because like I'm it's probably the same for you guys. I'm part Scottish. That's actually a pretty big part of my ancestry, and they did shit like this. They had ceremonies, they had culture and custom, for building up manhood. I mean, that's what we've forgotten in this fucking.
Well, yeah, I mean, but me and Ronnie, half our ancestry is Italian, which is Mediterranean, and
right, I'm
up there in that area.
And that's what I mean. People just need to dig deep from wherever their families came from, and find out what.
Or is like that Italian area and the Greeks, like the Spartans and shit. Their fighting tactics were similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were a warrior culture, and then they got softened by civilization and democracy, and they got civilized and decadent, and they eventually fell because of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, and that's why I envy those people in a way, because they don't have the moral pollution of our so-called civilized society. I mean, they don't have physical pollution, and they don't have that moral pollution, that mind rot, like. And that's what people like. That needs to be.
I would be interested to learn what their average lifespans are. Like if nothing untoward happens, you know what I mean? Because because what I'm saying, like with all the fucking poison that we eat with our Western diets, I'd be interested to see what their average lifespan is eating naturally. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Yeah.
look, it's probably not great because if they lived super long times, and they'd have like 1 million people jammed on that island, which should be impossible. So I mean,
So
yeah,
you
they
say probably
have,
their tribal elders are probably in their 50s, most
yeah,
likely.
probably. And look, they probably have a high infant mortality rate because otherwise you'd have hundreds of kids running around, not just a couple dozen
Well,
or whatever.
and probably a high mortality rate of mothers dying during birth.
Yeah, they probably, I would assume they have several children each, or they give birth to a few, then they pass on. I'm sure there's some natural, what do you call it? Infertility, obviously, mixed in there. High infant mortality, because look, obviously there are many people out there know who, without some medical intervention, some of the people we know today wouldn't be here. So that that's why it's probably naturally low, but it's naturally probably what it should be for that ecosystem, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
we're used to living like how many people does Los Angeles have? Just rough estimate, I forget. Like, city itself, not the county, like 4 or 5 million people.
I think it's less.
Well, I think it's like four, like in the
The,
city
the the
proper.
city itself,
Yeah.
I think it's like 3.5, maybe.
All right, 3.5. County itself, probably what, 8 or 9?
Yeah, something like that.
That's what I mean. That's insane. That's not natural. That's not natural. And we're gonna learn today. Not maybe you're gonna learn today,
You gonna
but maybe
learn today, boy.
you're gonna learn tomorn.
Hey, you
That
ever seen a real big dick? You gonna learn today.
blood on my knife or shit on my dick. But
Slob on my knob, like corn on the cob.
Oh
a
my
wiener
God.
a wiener whistle.
Wiener Schnitzel.
Venus
Yeah,
Schnitzel.
those people probably are at their ecological in a good ecological place. Yeah, they're not knocking on 90, I'm sure, for many of them.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab probably went there and was like, "You will eat the bugs, and you will like the bugs." And they said, "Yes, sir. I like the bugs."
Yeah, actually, no, I've changed my mind. Because again, I personally don't like the state generally killing people on the people's behalf usually. So all the globalists, we just send them to North Sentinel Island a few at a time and put targets on their bellies.
Oh fuck! Send them all there all at once. Sentinelese will take
Send
care
them
of them.
there. See
I
if
don't want
they can
them.
convince them to join the global community.
Those pencil neck little bitches couldn't defend themselves against real warriors.
Like, probably a 5-year-old kid would spear them.
Most likely.
You are
I might
real.
as
Look at
I
me.
might as well
Look
have
at me.
marched the women down here, judging by what I've seen.
Right? It's insane.
What is this, priest? The Pope's new army? A couple of crusty bitches and a handful of ragtags?
Let's say this: like, look, if we had some event happened in the world where everything, all of our modern amenities, all of a sudden stopped working. Firearms didn't work. You know, gasoline motors didn't work. We had no electricity, nothing. We had to go back to primitive ways of living, right? The freaking wealthy people in the world, all of a sudden, because their wealth only exists on computers, suddenly they have nothing.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they'd be right there with the rest of us, and we would remember them.
Yeah.
Nobody would go out of their way to help those people.
The vast majority of our society is completely synthetic. It's not real. Frankly, it's kind of like a physical mirage. We can see it, but it's still fake.
Like, and I said it before to some people online who were talking about you know, the Great Reset and all this crap, and we're getting way the fuck off course here, but
Yeah.
And they were talking about how pretty much how we have no hope and these people run the world and all this shit. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, well, what happens when 1 billion of us stand up all of a sudden and decide to And we just decide that, hey, well, you know what? All their stuff is now our stuff. What are they going to do about it?
Well,
I mean, they could do.
in terms of the economy, though, we're all going to have to start learning to live like those North Sentinelese people.
Oh, well, we're going to learn to live more within our means, because here in America, we've been spoiled for way too long with credit and everything else. When we live way outside of our means. So
the kids walking around with their Walkmans and 8-track tapes listening to Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, damn kids these days with their twatters and their my face.
in my face. With their twatters and their my face. Yep. And then like some old lady, like super old lady, gives you $1, and then you're like, oh, thank you, and you start to walk away, and then she goes, oh, there you go, off to buy your penny whistles and moon pies.
Yep.
Don't you go spend it all on some fancy record player.
Yep.
Back in 1906, that was a down payment on the ranch.
Back in my day, some umpteen years ago.
Anyone who says '06, they're probably at least 200 years old.
Right.
Yeah. That's about how long Nancy Pelosi's been in office.
Just about.
Well, you want to
She's
tell
been
the
in
good
office
people,
about half of our country's history.
you
So
want to tell the good people where they can locate us?
He is foamy. You have wandered way off course.
What have we rambled on for the last 20 minutes? Nothing to do with the topic. All right. So, well, that's per usual for this podcast.
Hey,
so.
For the topic, though, I think the North Sentinelese, I think they put the "Don't Tread on Me" flag that I got in my background to a whole new level.
Exactly. But you know what, though?
It's the same
nothing.
sentiment.
Well, nothing really supernatural about them, but I mean, it is a fascinating topic, and we've pretty much gone over all the information that humankind really knows about them. Aside from them, they know about themselves.
Well,
But
as
we'll
primitive
know.
as they are, it's definitely supernatural that they've managed to keep themselves from being conquered for so long.
Well, mostly that's because of the benevolence of other people.
Well, that and
Not fucking with them.
I'd say that, and I guess there's no real strategic advantage of taking that particular island.
But they already the British colonized every other island around that area besides that one. So
maybe it's protected divinely.
Well, it is by the Indian government now. Nobody's allowed to go anywhere near that island now.
True, you go near that island now, even get close to it, and the Indian Coast Guard will be out there up your ass.
Well, yeah, they don't allow
Telling you
anybody
to
near
move
that
on.
island now. Nowhere near it.
Good.
You gotta stay out of, you gotta be over the horizon. Like, you can't be seen from the beach if you were standing on that beach. You gotta be away from that island.
Keep this cancerous culture away from those people.
Exactly. Let them live. Can I live? Shit.
Live and let live, I hear some folks say.
Yeah. So
That's what I was fighting about.
yeah, we're on YouTube. This video will most likely go up on YouTube, or this podcast, even though we barely get any views on there, and that's fine too.
Yeah, up on YouTube with my Third World Girls Gone Wild background. That's going to get you banned from YouTube.
Okay. I don't care. If I get banned, then what do I lose? Nothing.
It would just be a badge of honor.
I'll lose a whole 6 or 7 views a week, maybe.
Fuck you, YouTube.
Yeah. And we're on Instagram. Don't let the fact that I haven't posted on there in like 6 months, don't let that fool you. I do check it. practically daily. So if you want to DM me on there, I will definitely see it.
And for any North Sentinelese listening tonight, thank you. It's a privilege.
Yeah, no.
Any of the tribesmen, please send us an email if we've said anything incorrectly.
And
Anyone have ears large enough to act like satellite dishes that pick up our broadcast? I doubt it. But
our email is supernaturalbeerbros@gmail.com. And we're on pretty much every major podcasting network: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all that shit,
including your sister's ass.
What's
Podbean.
email?
Huh?
Are you on the email? What's email?
I said we're on everything, including.
Do it live! Fucking thing sucks!
I said we're on everything, including your sister's ass. So.
Hey, you keep it up, we'll be removed like a mole on your sister's ass.
Hey, gotta beautify that ass somehow.
Yeah. All right. One fat joke and then we're done. So this came off of The Sopranos, and they made a fat joke about there's this one like high level mobster and his wife is a big fatty, and they made a joke at a table that somehow got back to him. So said, all right, so Jenny Sack had a 80-pound mole removed off her ass.
Oh my God.
It's like Jenny Sack is so fat, she had a 80-pound mole removed from her ass.
Yeah, that's the comment that eventually started a friggin' mob war.
Oh, and then another one, like right before Tony Soprano walked in, he was like, Tony Soprano's so fat, his blood type is ragu.
Awesome.
All right, so I think that just about wraps it up. So this has been the Supernatural Beer Bros podcast. Ben, Ronnie, and I are signing out.